Resource webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. For everybody that is signed into our webinar, welcome. We are so glad that you were able to connect with us today. If you are connected to Facebook Live, thank you for chiming in. And if you are on replay, we're so glad that you came back to check us out. So today on our Savvy Resource webinar, what you need to know if you want to go back to school. So for all of our Savvy vets, this is for you. And what are we here for? I want to make sure that we clarify Savvy Vets is a nonprofit organization. We are dedicated to clarifying VA benefits and providing custom transition solutions to veterans and the organizations that support them. So we are so happy that everybody has chimed in today. We have a really great webinar lined up for you. And Christine is going to be joining us. So we're so glad to have her here with us. And before we introduce her, I just want to go ahead and make sure that if anybody wants to be notified of upcoming resource webinars specifically for our transitioning vets, you guys can see the website at the bottom, savvyvets.org/veterans. And of course, as always, we offer a no-cost service to our military veterans. So Christine, if you would like to kick off with the introduction, and then we'd love to hear your presentation.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Christine Schwartz. I am the Chief Executive Officer for Service to School. We are a nonprofit that works with veterans who are transitioning or have recently left the service, and we help them apply and gain admission to the best schools possible. We work with undergrad students, grad students, MBA, law school, you name it. My connection to the military is that I was an Army officer for about 5 years. I was on active duty. I am an Army spouse, and I'm a granddaughter, daughter, and sister of military members. So I'm very tied into the military and the veteran community, and it's obviously a huge passion of mine. I can roll right into the presentation. So. Okay. So, service to school, what you need to know if you want to go back to school. So first we need to address the issue. And a large issue that we're seeing with veterans transitioning to higher ed is that there's low enrollment at institutions of higher education, and specifically nonprofit top 150 colleges. So what does that mean? And let's really look at that a little bit. So student veteran fast facts, and this will clarify the issue. Only 1 in 10 veterans is enrolled at a university that has higher than a 70% graduation rate. 1 in 3 veterans uses the GI Bill to attend a for-profit university. So if you look at those two things, obviously if we're going to use our GI Bill, we want to enroll at a school that we are likely to graduate from. So what does that mean? And that means a nonprofit university in most cases, because for-profit universities have very low graduation rates. So we don't want 1 in 3 veterans to be attending a for-profit university. Each year, nearly 40,000 veterans will earn a bachelor's degree, but only about 700 of those veterans are enrolled at what's considered a top 36 university. That figure comes from a man named Wick Salone. Wick Salone is a great academic who every year puts out a research project, or not research project, but research on what the veteran landscape in higher ed looks like. And over the past couple of years, he's found that there are only about 700 to 800 of these students at these universities. That number is a little different from VES stats, the Veteran Education Success, who does a lot of research and policy. And they say that number is closer to about 1,200. But of those 1,200, the majority of those students are enrolled at either Georgetown or Columbia, which are great universities. But that means that all of the other veterans are only going about 1 to 2 people at a time to the top universities. So obviously, looking at that, we're saying why are there 400 students at Columbia or Georgetown? Why aren't there 400 students at every college throughout the country? Another issue is that veterans are more likely than other students to enroll at institutions with less than a 50% graduation rate. So we're more likely as a veteran to enroll in a college where we will likely not graduate from than a high school senior. Another issue is that transfer policies at many schools don't permit veterans to transfer credits, and often the guidelines for transferring are confusing. So if you're on a college website and you're trying to figure out, hey, I have 12 credits that I got at a community college or took online, will those transfer credits, will they transfer to your university? Or which of those will they accept? Or am I a transfer student or am I a freshman student? All of those things are really hard for our veterans to find out. And that ties into why they are then not going to these universities, because oftentimes they can't even figure out the application process. Another issue we're seeing is that veterans feel like outsiders to the admission process. So many veterans report facing unique admission challenges. So what does that mean? That could mean I can't get my hands on my high school transcript, or I'm currently deployed and I don't have great internet connectivity. How am I going to submit an application? Or I'm a mother or father and I don't want to move my family across the United States just to attend a specific college. Another thing is that 60% of veterans are first-generation college students. And actually, that statistic within Services School is that 50% of the veterans that we work with are first-generation college students. So oftentimes, they don't have the understanding of, what a great college looks like. What is a good culture fit for them? Should they be taking an SAT or an ACT? Should they attend community college first? The types of things that if you were a high school student, you would be talking to a high school guidance counselor about. Those are the things that we want our veterans to be talking to us about so that we can address them. Veterans also report that they have a challenge with connecting with a civilian admissions audience. So oftentimes we're taught, hey, you're a part of a team. You don't need to talk about all of your awards and accolades. And we also don't understand which of our skills are most valuable. Should I talk about the fact that I was a team leader and I managed 4 to 5 people? Or what language should I use? Should I be using military terms? Who understands those? Or should I be approaching college admissions like going into a job interview? It's really confusing in how to talk about yourself. And then you look at it, applying to a college and you think of all of the essays and all of the things that you have to do. Should you be telling people that you were in the military? Should you be spotlighting that? Or should you be talking about things you did before the military? And then finally, the other challenge is that veterans are just often misled on for-profit and vocational programs versus a traditional academic program. So, what's the difference between getting a bachelor's degree from a for-profit online college versus getting one from an in-state or even a private university? Will those end up taking me to different points in my career? Will I make more money if I do one versus the other? Things like that. Or, I was a welder in the Army. Should I just continue that vocation and go get more certificates on top of that? So there's often a misalignment on what we're told we should do, if we should stick with our MOS, if we should major in something that aligns with our MOS, or if we should even go back to school at all. The reality, though, with all these problems is that veterans actually have these enormous and wonderful experiences that colleges want to bring to their classroom. So we talked about all these problems. There's only 700 students enrolled at these universities, but the universities truly do want more students on their campus. We just all haven't been able to bridge the gap. And by all, I mean both the veteran population and the college population. So interesting things that veterans bring to the classroom. Obviously, we've served in zones of armed conflicts. We've been deployed. We have a vast amount of managerial experience. We have unique ethical perspectives that definitely freshmen straight out of high school students do not have. We have different life experience. We also additionally normally have different types of education and certificates that other people don't have through the military. So if you think about it, this is very interesting to a college who wants to foster a learning experience, a dynamic experience for their students. They want a freshman to sit next to a veteran and say, hey, tell me about what you know from the world. What have you learned? How will that shape the future? How will that shape the lens through how people learn and are taught? You could say it even ties back into national security. If the growing adult population wants to understand national security, they need to understand why we've been at war for 17 years, what veterans have done. Just like after World War II, there were all of these soldiers, airmen, sailors in classrooms because of the GI Bill. And so that population, they understood veterans, they understood the war. Now that veterans are such a small population, the normal population doesn't understand our experiences. So let's bring them into the classroom so everyone has a broader knowledge. So how do we bridge this gap? How do we bring veterans into the classroom? So there are many different organizations out there, but obviously I'm talking about Service to School, and I would love for you all to use Service to School as you apply to higher ed. Our service is completely free to all veterans. The only thing that we ask is that if we help you get into a great university or the school of your choice, that you come back and you volunteer with us. So how does that work? If you sign up for our services, which are application services, and you get into school, the next year you will be able to advise a veteran on how to also gain admission to a school of their choice. And we do that using a trained methodology. So our services and our mentors provide a couple different things. They're going to help veterans with test prep, so talking about the difference between an ACT and an SAT, or if you even need to take those standardized tests and which colleges require them, don't require them, things of that nature. We go over resume and transcript review. So just like applying for a job, your resume is important and a school will look at it. So going through that and civilianizing it. And then looking at your transcripts. So we know that the vast majority of veterans that are going to apply to undergrad are going to be transfer students. And that's because usually they're either at a community college or they've taken courses online during the service or even after service. So they're going to have a transfer transcript. So going over things on their transfer transcript, or saying, hey, if you're at community college, maybe you should take a calculus this semester. Or if you want to go to an engineering school, let's make sure that you're signing up for courses that align with where you want to transfer, things of that nature. We also do a lot of essay review. So, a big Achilles heel for veterans is that college admissions essay. And there can be more than one, depending on where you apply to school, there could be numerous essays. So we'll help you with the grammar, just that review, having someone to count on, to bounce ideas off of, to help with your story, that sort of thing. If the college that you're applying to requires an interview, we'll do interview prep with you. And then finally, helping you network. So say you want to attend Yale or Penn State or Virginia Tech, we'll try and connect you with veterans on those campuses so you can have an honest conversation about what being a student at those campuses mean. So when I say I'm not going to be doing all of that. It will be your mentor who we would pair you with, and we pair you with a mentor based on a couple different things. It could be your branch of service. It could be the types of schools that you want to apply to. It could be geographic location. There's a myriad of different reasons that will pair you with a mentor, but we always want to make sure that it's a fruitful relationship for both the mentor and then obviously the veteran applicant. So that was a really quick nutshell of the problem and then how we're approaching it, but I'd love to answer some questions. And if you want me to unshare my screen, Adrienne, please let me know.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you so much, Christine, for that. All right, so one question that came through, how do you know if you're the right candidate for school? Like, what does that process even look like?
If you're the right candidate for school. So I think you need to think about, and I'm gonna just turn off my share. Okay. So I think you need to think about, so every year, 200,000 veterans get out of the service. Over 100,000 of them are going to go use the GI Bill. And oftentimes in that transition, people don't talk about higher ed. There's a lot of emphasis on, okay, let's get you ready to apply for a job. Let's look at your resume, that thing, but nobody says, oh, you're going to use your GI Bill. Let's make sure that you're applying to good schools. So first, I think when you're getting out of the service, you need to decide what your track is. Are you going to look for a job, or are you going to use your GI Bill? And then you need to think about what you want to do. College is a time to discover yourself, but it's also a time to use to set yourself up for your future. So if you've always said, hey, I want to get into business consulting, looking at business degrees, or I love math, maybe you should think about engineering, or aerospace. So really, I guess codifying what you want to do is the first step.
Right. No, and that's a great point. Now, another question that came through is, I'm concerned that I may have to repay a course if I fail. How can I protect myself? I think maybe due to disability, and I'm sorry, and please, the person that sent that question, if you want to clarify it any further, please do, but I'm assuming that that's what they mean. Like if they were to fail due to like a disability or something, what can they do to protect themselves?
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know if you mean financially or like getting it removed from the transcript. So a lot of times, and that's something we work with students specifically, and that's why you always want to let colleges know that you're a veteran, because we see students that have to withdraw from courses, or they just get bad grades because maybe something came up, or they were getting ready to deploy and they couldn't handle it. And when you're going to apply to a school, and you either have a withdrawal or a bad grade on your record, you are able to explain that. And working with nonprofits or other organizations like ourselves, we can further help clarify that. But just being honest and open with it is really important. There's no shame in saying, hey, I had to withdraw from a course because I was getting ready to deploy in 3 weeks and I was super stressed out. I mean, an admission counselor is going to say, yeah, that's stressful.
Right. Perfect. Well, that is all the questions I have on my end. If anybody else on our webinar has any additional questions, or anybody joining us live, if you guys do chime in afterwards, we are more than happy to provide responses to anybody that has registered. We can certainly follow up on those questions. So any last points that you would like to end with? And of course, we want to ask, how can people get a hold of you, Christine?
Sure. So go to our website, servicetoschool.org, and sign up. So I think the first step is always getting paired with a mentor and just starting to bounce ideas off of them. The sky's the limit. There's veterans at every Ivy League school, every school you can dream of, Harvard, Yale, Stanford. And most veterans, they come in and they think, I can't do that. That's like the Rudy story from Notre Dame. That doesn't really happen, but it does, because colleges, they love these veteran experiences that we bring to the table. And it's not about high school grades. It's about what you did in the military and what you're going to do. They want to see academic potential. And veterans really do have unlimited potential. And even data shows that veterans are better students than a traditional student. I think a traditional student has like a 2.8 GPA and a veteran has a 3.4. So they're doing great things.
That's awesome. And it's always great to hear those types of stats, because, you just don't know what you don't know. And having organizations like yours that can help support this process is so important. It's all about the resources and making that connection. So you guys, I really hope that everybody was able to get some really great value out of this. I know that I did. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out to Christine or her organization directly. She did provide her information, and we can certainly send this out as a recording to anybody that has participated in the webinar. So thank you, Christine, so much for your time. It has been such a pleasure to have you on. And we look forward to seeing everybody soon. Again, don't forget to sign up so that you make sure that you get notified of upcoming resource webinars, www.savvyvets.org/veterans. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks.